Good morning. Welcome to the Stylo News Intelligence Update for March 3, 2026. Today, we're examining a conflict that's unfolding right now, but largely out of sight. It's a battle being fought not with soldiers, but with lines of code. We're going to explore this expanding digital battlefield, looking closely at the actions of key state actors like Russia and China, and unpacking the really game-changing role of artificial intelligence.
And just a quick note that today's update is brought to you by our partners at ProWave AI. They're the developers behind the AI-powered intelligence platform Stylo Intelops, and of course the Stylo News platform you're watching right now.
All right, so where do we begin? Well, the first major front in this digital conflict really involves state-sponsored cyber threats. Over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a noticeable uptick in coordinated attacks from government-backed groups, and that's creating new tensions all around the globe.
To give you a concrete example, just look at the 2026 Winter Olympics. Italian authorities reported that a pro-Russian group, which goes by the name No Name 057, tried to disrupt the event. Their weapon of choice? DDoS attacks, which basically means flooding a system with so much traffic that it just collapses. And at the same time, over in Poland, officials reported attacks on their power grid. They pointed the finger directly at elite Russian intelligence units, the FSB and GRU. So these aren't just random acts of vandalism. They're very targeted, very strategic offensives.
And it's not always about disruption. A lot of the time, it's about espionage, and on a massive scale. Google's cybersecurity team recently uncovered a Chinese-backed network, they call it Gallium, that's been operating in the shadows for years, since 2017 in fact. Now get this, this single spy ring targeted telecom companies and governments in more than 40 different countries. That just gives you a sense of the coordination and the sheer reach we're dealing with.
Now there's a powerful new element being thrown into this mix, artificial intelligence. And AI is a true double-edged sword in this arena. It's a force multiplier that's being used by attackers to become far more dangerous, but it's also being used by defenders to build smarter, more resilient shields.
To give you a sense of the sheer volume we're talking about, look at this number. 3,195. That's the number of cyber attacks India is facing every single week. So what's driving this huge increase? You guessed it, AI-powered automation. It lets a pretty small group of attackers hit thousands of targets, like schools and government agencies, with a speed and sophistication that was just unthinkable a few years ago.
So you can really break it down into the two sides of the same coin, AI as a weapon and AI as a shield. On the weapons side, it can create incredibly convincing phishing emails or completely automate widespread attacks. But as a shield, that same technology can scan millions of lines of code to find a vulnerability before an attacker can exploit it. It's creating a whole new kind of proactive defense.
And look, this isn't just a future problem. The cybersecurity experts at CrowdStrike are seeing it happen right now. They highlight the, and I'm quoting here, growing agility and innovation of cybercriminals, and they say it's driven specifically by their adoption of AI. To put it simply, the bad guys are getting smarter and faster, all thanks to this new technology.
Okay, so with all these threats getting more intense and more sophisticated, how is the world fighting back? This brings us to our final theme for this morning, a global pivot toward resilience. Nations are figuring out they can't just sit back and play defense anymore. They have to adapt and respond in completely new ways.
Let's look at Japan, for instance. They're taking a really interesting long-term approach. Instead of just trying to hire more experts, they're actually creating them. Police are running capture-the-flag hacking competitions for students. And why? Because with cyber threats literally doubling since 2019, they know their best defense is to cultivate that next generation of defenders right from the ground up.
It's not just about building talent at home, though. We're seeing nations team up. New alliances are forming, like the 5-year Cyber Defense Pact between Sweden and Ukraine, which is specifically aimed at countering Russian threats. And you've got Germany and Israel planning something very similar. It's a really clear signal that in a global digital conflict, no single country can go it alone. The other big tool here is regulation. Governments are now stepping in to set new ground rules for our connected world. In Russia, they're setting new security standards for smart home devices. The EU is mandating security certifications for all new cars. And in Switzerland, it's now mandatory to report attacks on critical infrastructure. The idea is to enforce a baseline of security across the entire board.
So, when you put it all together, what does it all mean? You have state-sponsored attacks, the rapid rise of AI, and these new global defenses. These are not separate stories. They're all interconnected threads in a very complex web, and together, they are defining a new era of global security.
And that really leads us to the core question we should all be thinking about. As this digital battlefield keeps expanding, what does it mean for global stability? The lines that used to separate peacetime from conflict are becoming incredibly blurry, and understanding these new rules of engagement has never been more critical.
For a much deeper dive into this analysis, you can find our full Stylo News Intelligence Update podcast. It's available now on your favorite listening channel.
Thank you for joining us for this update. For more AI-powered news on demand, we invite you to subscribe at www.stylenews.com. The next global conflict may not be fought with bombs, but with bytes. And the big question is, are we ready?